This is what happens when appellate courts get over their skis and don't think about real-world consequences. I reported yesterday that a 3-judge panel of the D.C. Court of Appeals had overruled Judge Amy Berman Jackson and found that Hampton Dellinger, who heads this little-known but very important internal federal agency called the Office of Special Counsel that works hard to protect federal workers from illegal firings and civil servants from illegal firings for retaliation and whistleblowing. He himself removed. That was a well-reasoned decision by Judge Amy Berman Jackson that was well on its way to the Supreme Court, except it was derailed by an Obama, Biden, and Trump appointee who on the D.C. Court of Appeals said, well, let's figure it all out with a briefing schedule from now until May, and we'll take Dellinger out of his job in the meantime. Hampton Dellinger has now decided to throw in the towel. Not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. He's fearful that in the next 3 or 4 months, at the critical moment when federal workers need their protection, and he just filed a claim and a charge to protect 5,000 of them, it'll all be undone by Donald Trump during the briefing schedule. Federal judges on appeal who haven't been in the real world in a long time, many of them hermetically sealed within the ivory tower, did not think this through. Hampton Dellinger is throwing in the towel. I'm Michael Popok. I'm not throwing in the towel. You're here on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. I reported just the other day, a day or so ago, that a 3-judge panel, Henderson, Millett, and a Trump appointee got together and decided that, well, even though there's a 1935 precedent on the books for the Supreme Court called Humphrey's Executor, which would seem to stop the firing of a federal officer confirmed by the Senate unless there's for cause reason to do it, which is the limit that Congress puts on and checks and balances of the executive branch, that's dictatorial, imperial, king-like, and a dictator. And Amy Berman Jackson did a great job in a 35-page decision. She's a great judge. And saying, no, Humphrey's Executor and all of its progeny stop this kind of firing unless there's cause, and there was no cause. He just doesn't like Hampton Dellinger. I like Hampton Dellinger. I know the family well. His father was my constitutional law professor. Everything I learned about constitutional law and how to analyze it and break it down from Marbury versus Madison all the way through the end of that, I learned at the knee of Walter Dellinger. The late, great Walter Dellinger should have been a Supreme Court justice in his time. But Hampton Dellinger is an amazing public servant. He's a Boy Scout. He's exactly the kind of person in a nonpartisan way that you'd want to see in that position, except Donald Trump didn't like him because he's a Democrat and Biden appointed him. And he wants to try out this executive theory of unitary executive power, imperial presidency that's in the hands of one person. Steve Calabresi, a very famous right-wing legal scholar, kind of came up with the unitary theory, trying to show from history how it's appropriate. And then there's another series of legal scholars led by Cass Sunstein who said, what are you talking about? That's a myth. There's never been an imperial presidency. Louis Brandeis, the first Jewish Supreme Court justice, put it best in 1927 when and I'm paraphrasing now, when he said, it is that very friction between the 3 branches that stops us from having an imperial president, that is the checks and balance. We don't want frictionless between the 3 co-equal branches of government. Picture them as wheels that are grinding against each other. It's that grind that we need to stop absolutism. That's it. And so we had what I thought was 3 cases that were uniform in some common denominators. One about the Merit Service Protection Board, one about Hampton Dellinger's office, the Special Counsel's office, and one about the National Labor Relations Board, all protecting federal workers at a moment when they need that firewall. But Donald Trump didn't like all the Biden-appointed Senate-confirmed people there, and without cause, without due process, fired them. That's the cases. Now, I don't know why that's 3-judge panels. There's no opinion behind it, but they said, no, we're going to take Hampton Dellinger out of his job. He can fight to get it back through an appeal, but we're going to have a normal appellate process through May. And Hampton Dellinger said that I am the firewall. You need me on that wall. And now that you've taken me out, and I'm not going to be able to get back in for 3 or 4 months while Trump puts a Trumper in there, he's going to undo all my work. It's not worth it. I'm throwing in the towel. I guess he's also afraid, I'm sure he hasn't said it out loud, about making bad precedent because this Supreme Court is so quirky, is so fighting out for its own soul, its own existential fight that's going on right now, that you don't know where these decisions are going to come. Some I understand. Some are so perverse from the Supreme Court and so warped that I don't understand them. And it's because you're watching this tug of war between the right-wing absolutists, imperial unitary president model people, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Thomas, and Alito, and the other three are trying to pull it back and get Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Roberts to join them. And it's this fight for the soul of our constitutional republic that's burst out in the open. And I can't blame Hampton Dellinger for saying, I don't want to be the one where the Dellinger case makes bad law. There's two other cases that we are going to have to deal with that are going to have different 3-judge panels of the D.C. Circuit Court. They're going to go up to the Supreme Court. You know where to follow it. Right here on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF. What does it all mean? It means that particular case with Hampton Dellinger, he's going to withdraw his appeal. Done. That's a win for the Trump administration. And I'm not sure that's exactly what the federal judges wanted, but that's what happened. That's the real life consequence of it. We got the two other cases, right? The one about the Merit Protection Service Board and the National Labor Relations Board on the exact same analysis, exact same case, Humphrey's executory. It even applies or it doesn't apply. Boom. One is by Judge Beryl Howell. One is by Rudy Contreras. Those two cases, I think, get consolidated. But we'll have to see what happens now at the appellate level. Is the next randomly assigned 3-judge panel of the D.C. Court of Appeals going to side with Henderson, Millett, and the other guy? Or are they going to, and there could be some overlap with the random assignment, or are they going to go a different way? And therefore, but the only two cases that can now go to the Supreme Court are the two that aren't abandoned. Dellinger, kind of said, I'm out. It's like poker. He cashed in his chips, took his money. He says, I'm out of here. We'll follow it all right here on Legal AF. Hit the subscribe button. Help us get to our 500,000. It's a tough number for me to say out loud. It's so amazing in just less than 6 months, actually. So hit the subscribe button. We're continuing to build with your involvement. Of course, our audience literally can't do it without you. We're completely independent without outside investors. We're building this network together with our bare hands. I'm Michael Popok. And I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.